You're listening to Metal Gear Mondays, and one of the things you can do to help support the show if you enjoy it is go to patreon.com/Metal Gear Mondays. It's kind of like PBS, when we're supported by listeners like you, except not as beneficial.
This week on Metal Gear Mondays, we go way, way, way back. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, welcome to Metal Gear Mondays, the official, unofficial, super unofficial indie Metal Gear book club, games club, podcast, roundabout, talk about show where we talk about Metal Gear and all things Metal Gear from start to finish, top to bottom, inside and out, left to right, unless you're Japanese, right to left. And as always, I'm your host, Alessio Summerfield, and this week I am joined by not Samuel Wright, but joined by Isaac Lim.
Where's Sam? I miss Sam.
Sam's actually actively, while we're recording, driving to Seattle, Washington to move his entire life right now. So let's all, even if you're driving, everyone close your eyes and send your good vibes to Sam. And we're joined by a guest. This week we are joined by Craven Knyte.
Hey, yo. How's everybody doing? I'm really happy to be part of the show. Quick and easy fan that just kind of came out of nowhere. You guys kind of fulfilled my dream of coming out with this show, as every year or a few months I would look for a Metal Gear podcast, and here you are, and here I am.
Thank you, sir. That was very succinct and articulate. And thank you so much for being on the show. No, we're just happy to have folks on, and especially folks that share like passion for the games, and especially somebody who's been as active in commenting and responding and chatting with us about it. So I think it's super cool.
Definitely.
And yeah, no, it's awesome. Before we dive too far into anything, I do want to talk to you, Craven, about sort of how you kind of got into the series, like what it is about it that sort of kept you like playing the games, like sort of where you're at now with the games, stuff like that. Like what's kind of your background with Metal Gear?
So my background with Metal Gear is it started probably when I was about 11 or 12 years old, when my older cousin, I grew up in New York, and at that time my older cousin kind of played all the games that I never really got in the beginning. So he was playing Metal Gear. I think I originally saw him playing against the fighting the Hind D. And
hey, that was a good snake.
I always wonder if I do an okay snake, because I only hear myself and no one else ever hears me do it. But
you just do it in your bedroom
when I'm just alone, and I'm just alone and just practicing my snake just for opportunities like this. But no,
solitary snake.
Pretty much playing solitaire as solitary snake. But no, I watched my older cousin play video games most of the time, typically Metal Gear and the Resident Evil games, because I was a scared little bitch when I was a little kid.
Hell yeah, cool older cousins, dude. I totally have played many a Silent Hill through a cool older cousin.
Oh yeah, I even had a buddy of mine that was a couple years older that I watched him play Silent Hill games because I was too freaked out by it. But
yeah, me too, man. Me and Isaac both, actually. I think we're a bunch of soft boys on this show right now.
Me especially.
But no, he was playing fighting the Hind D with the I think the Nikita missile or whatever, and I was really drawn to it. I was just really into it. Just the action movie feel of it. And 'cause I really loved action movies, even some of those really obscure action movies that we may remember as kids, but you try and bring it up and describe it, and no one has any idea what the hell you're talking about. And
yeah, like a fever dream movie.
Yeah, and yeah, I was really into it, watching him play the game. And then my mother bought me a PS1 for Christmas, and she ended up giving it to me early because I knew she had it because she went to Sears with me and just told me to go look around while she go purchase it. And so I ended up, she ended up giving it to me early, so I pretty much didn't have a big Christmas gift that year, and I got Crash Bandicoot Warped, I think.
Nice.
And,
nice.
And
game.
then the summer after, I think it was like for my birthday, I got Metal Gear Solid. So I still have that same original case to this day. I just don't have the booklet. But no, I played that game. I remember playing it all the way through. I even got the strategy guide, which I still have to this day. That I helped use pretty much. I wanted to find everything within the game. So that was kind of my intro to the game, at least playing it, or at least getting into it, was with my older cousin, and then finally being able to play it on my own, which being a little scaredy cat too. It was.
It's intense, dude. Like
It
the ninja
is.
hallway and stuff like that. Like,
That stuff
it's super
it's
spooky.
very dark, and it's like, especially has a dark hue to it, and it's intense, but it's really it really pulls you in too, and I really loved it, and I really dug how complex the story was, even though as a kid I had no idea what the story really was, but I was really intrigued in learning everything about it. So I was so excited at the idea of like a second one coming out, that like I seriously only purchased a PS2 specifically for Metal Gear Solid 2.
That's awesome.
And for Siphon Filter 3, which turned out to come out on the PS1 anyway. But no, I even saved up my allowance. I got like $30 a week. I saved up my allowance and whatever little extra money I would get, and saved up to purchase a PS2 with my own money. So it was like the first big giant
awesome.
purchase I ever did as like, 14, 15 years old, was getting that PS2, playing Metal Gear Solid 2. I pre-ordered it at Toys R Us. I didn't really need to, but I did, because I got nothing special with it. And then I didn't get to play it because I shared a room with my sister, who decided to go to sleep early, like uncommonly early, around 8 or 9 o'clock, so I can barely play it. But, I played it. I only played the demo for Metal Gear Solid 2 at a Toys R Us. I never actually got the demo physically for myself. So I had to.
Sure.
I remember my neck being in pain because the screen was like 10 feet up, directly
the angle
above
at
my
like
head.
180 degrees from your face.
Yeah.
It's awful.
But that's pretty much like my intro to the game and being into it, buying the action figure. I remember finding the action figure at Toys R Us and dropping the action figure after playing with it all the time. At like 12, 13 years old and playing with the action figure, I dropped it and the head just popped right off. But I used clay and put it inside just to hold it in place because I didn't have anything else to put in there. But no, I was like just obsessed with the game, to that point. I even got to when 2 came out, I got some of the toys. I really wanted to build the Metal Gear Ray, because if you got the action figures for part 2, they all came with pieces.
Oh, that's right.
Kind of like Marvel
that's
Legends
right.
do now and all that. And the new Power Rangers legendary figures that come out, you can build the Zords. You can build the Metal Gear Ray. And I wanted to do that, but I only had the one figure. I think I only had the Snake. I don't think I ever got a Raiden or anyone else. But to this day, it's like there's like one comic book store, collectible store, that sells the whole series of the action figures from Metal Gear Solid 1, but they sell them all as a bundle instead of like
I'm
every
sure it's
individual.
like $300 or something.
Actually, it's not that much. It's probably about $150. If anything, is doable. But like. But it's something that I've always wanted, was to have the entire series. But like to be able to build a little Metal Gear Ray would be freaking awesome. But no, ever since I've been so obsessed with that game. When Metal Gear Solid 2 was coming out, I got the EGM, the Electronic Gaming Monthly, and whenever they did a cover story on Metal Gear Solid 2, I just cut all the magazine pieces out and put them on my wall. That's how obsessed with it I was. And then
So we had like a true blue like Metal Gear fanboy on the show.
Oh yeah, I freaking love that game so much. And then three came out, and I didn't jump into 3 as hardcore as the other ones. And I think it was just an odd time, because I think that's when I started working. I was working at McDonald's at the time. Sure. So, but I did also play Twin Snakes. But I was working at McDonald's, and I saved up my money. Even though I didn't have bills at the time, it was easy for me to buy a GameCube. So I bought a GameCube specifically for Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes.
That's awesome.
But I can go on and on about that stuff. That's pretty much where it all started.
No, that's perfect. No, I love it. One, like, as much as easy as it is to like point a finger and be like, oh man, like that's crazy. You bought a console just for a game.
Yeah.
As I was thinking about it, it's like I totally bought a PS3 just for Metal Gear Solid 4, and then I totally bought a PS4 just for Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah. So like I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and I do have a funny story about, because Metal Gear Solid 4 is the first game that I pre-ordered to where I went to the midnight release.
Oh,
nice. And in Minnesota, I live in Minnesota, and I live in kind of Emerald Grove Heights, Minnesota. So it's like kind of like a small suburban like town that's kind of out of the way from actual Minneapolis, probably like 20 minutes away from Minneapolis. And so, but it's when you think about stuff like you think about New York or California or anything like that, when a big title comes out or a big movie comes out, you think, oh my God, it's going to be a bunch of lines, it's going to be sold out. Not out here. It's not like that out here.
How many people were there?
It's probably about less than 10. Like, you know.
Nice. So did you get to like chat with a bunch of other like Metal Gear fans?
I did, and it's weird because like, okay, so I am a kind of, if you look, I'm a very athletic looking guy. I stand out from, you know, from the typical kind of nerds that you would see, kind of like whether they're overweight or there's a very scrawny or just very timid. Like that wasn't me, and I was wrestling at the time.
Craven's a solidus snake,
yeah, pretty much,
if you will.
But
so
no,
you're a burly octopus man, is what you're saying.
Pretty much. And so I'm just kind of there. And then this is like a weird time because they had, I think it was a Red Bull, some type of energy drink, but they had these girls come out in a truck in like one of those sponsored cars with with the, you know, the big I think it was a Red Bull with the big Red Bull on top. And there's like these really pretty girls that came and stuff. And I just kind of felt all the guys around me were very timid, shy, and kind of to themselves. And like the girls, one of the girls came up, and like me, I think because I kind of felt like because usually I'm very shy, I'm very to myself, I'm not very outgoing when it comes to girls, pretty girls. I'm like freaked out by girls sometimes. But at least I used to be then. But when they came up, like one of the girls was like, so what is this game about? And I'm just like, none of the guys are really saying anything. I'm just like,
the kryptonite of all Metal Gear fans. What is this game about?
It's like, how do I explain it to? Yeah, so I tried to explain it best I could to eventually getting to. Yeah, it's very complicated. It's not. It's a really complex story, but it's a very fun and, you know, very interesting game. But the story is pretty complex and all that.
You should have handed her like a 300-page like college dissertation paper.
Like I've been waiting for this day for a girl like you just to ask. So.
Here's a briefcase. Go read all of these documents.
Get back to me in a week and let me know what you think. But
that's amazing. My phone number is mixed into that document.
Yeah, so it's in between the lines. And but no, like I got the game. I got the pack that came with the DVD. I think it was the second half of the what was it? Because I ended up buying one of the. What is it? I ended up buying one of the things on eBay. It was the video that's kind of like a documentary of the game and all that.
It's the two-part DVD. Well, no, that's Metal Gear Solid 3, where it was like the pre-order DVD, and then the second DVD came in the box for subsistence.
Yeah.
I think with 4, there was like a making of Blu-ray.
Yes, that I watched. And I for some reason, I decided to try and watch some of it before I finished the game. So it said like do not watch this if you haven't completed the game. I was like, okay, I won't. And no, I didn't watch it. No, not until after. But like I really dug it. But whenever I have to read subtitles, I kind of get completely out of it. But that was, I got that, and it came with the CD. And I think because of the CD that it came with the music from the game, that was the beginning of my obsession with listening to the scores from the game. Where it's like the music from Metal Gear Solid is like music that I can play in my head all the time. I even listen to it at the gym. I'll listen to it if I'm trying to read a book, which is like awesome because like, you know, wordless music
is very intense.
The book gets very intense. Like I'm reading a freaking, you know, autobiography about a wrestler, but for some reason it's very intense and full of action because of music. But no, it's amazing. But I love that music, and you guys reminded me, after listening to one of the podcasts, you guys were talking about the skateboarding in Metal Gear Solid 2. You reminded me of the Metal Gear Solid 2 theme, the cool version that they came out with, and I was like, oh my god, I wanted that version so bad, and I, you know, YouTubed it and all that stuff, and I have YouTube Red so I can stream it while I'm like at the gym and all that stuff, but no, I'm obsessed with the music, and it kind of started there, and I would listen to it at work and stuff while I'm doing stuff. Even so much to this day, and I'll end my rant on this with because I do tend to ramble, so I'm sorry. But
you're totally fine.
But whenever I'm working on a task, especially at work or anything, and I'm finished with the task, I typically go So I do that little thing from like, the VR missions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like, that's usually how I finish tasks. And then like, I know I'm done. It's like, dun, 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 dun. I'm done. I'm out of here. So yeah.
Yeah, Colonel Campbell would just be like, "Great job, Snake."
What if you fail a task?
Impressive, Snake. Or damn.
the game over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I don't finish fast enough, so I get the. I don't do it in good time, so I get damn.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it's a good thing too. So like, your story is actually kind of perfect because like eventually we do want to talk about like action figures and do like an episode on the music.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on some really cool shit that
Yeah.
we can talk about later. Before we dive into our la 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 la. Before we dive into the show proper, Craven, I feel like we've given this honor to a couple people in the past, so feel free to take or pass. Would you like to sing a little song that has something to do with Isaac?
Oh yeah. La 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 la.
Yes.
All right.
Stretch it out.
Let me smoke a few cigarettes. All
Some
right.
warm tea.
Fumbling in the dark with Isaac Lim.
Man.
That one was scary. I don't like that one.
I tried to be a little bit kind of like Metal Gear Solid 4 Snake, where he's just like he's very raspy
smoky.
and destroyed.
He's like, I don't care, I'm dying. Well, technically, if it's part of what we're covering, you should have coughed and like thrown up 3 or 4 times in the movie.
All right.
So Isaac, what do we do?
I'm kind of honestly, I'm drawing a blank because it's been a few weeks.
Oh no! Yeah, that's true.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Let me think it through.
because we did record like 2 episodes on the same night, like 2 or 3 nights in a row.
okay.
And then we had the break. So give me a break. Oh, okay. All right. Act 3, Sam's favorite part. We played finger guns with Mr.
And Patty's favorite part.
And Patty.
Oh,
sorry.
Patty.
Yes.
Oh man, where's Patty when you need him?
Yeah, right. I
Patty was
will
so
say
great.
this for people who like Patty's liquid impersonation. I think Zachary James, friend of the network, might be writing a script where Nick Ziegler, Zach, and Patty come together to voice different snakes.
Oh,
So
that's excellent.
If they end up recording that, we'll have to play it on this show.
Awesome.
Isaac,
Yep.
continue though.
And then
I'm not giving you a free pass.
so then we play old school with Eva
Evil
and
Eva.
she does a couple jumps doing her best Eva Knievel impersonation on
Which
her
has been turned into a meme thanks to our listeners as well.
on her trusty motorcycle. And then we play finger guns with Mr. Ocelot Man, and he destroys everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
He even cooks a big bar.
Yeah.
The barbecue.
He was marinating for so long. He had to cook eventually. You got to taste just nice and moist after being in that bag for so long.
Oh,
Jesus.
can't
I feel
forget
like
that.
marinade bag, Big Boss. Might be my favorite thing.
He was preserved just properly.
Jesus.
Oh man. So yeah.
Craven, what do you want
that's
to give? What do
happened.
you want to give Isaac rating wise? I'm gonna give Isaac like I'll give him a 7.
A
I'll give him
7?
a decent 7.
I'm gonna go 7 3/4.
Yeah. Got the fractions going.
Oh yeah.
I promise I'll do
Not the
better.
fractions.
Maybe, but maybe
Well, yeah, so this week we are going to be covering Act 4, which, Craven, thank you for the awesome background, because we're going to
Yes.
dive into a lot of where this series started for
Yeah.
a lot of people. So, hell yeah.
I have
So
to
this
say,
is-
I am truly honored to be part of this part, because this is indeed my favorite part in at least my favorite playthrough of any Metal Gear out of all the Metal Gears is this specific part. So be my first time on here and being part of Act 4, the beginning of it all is freaking awesome. So
it's
Nice.
so good, man. Yeah, I forgot how, like, I remember the first time I played this part, I really dug it, but I forgot how cool it was.
Oh my god, it literally, because it was a huge surprise to me. Like, I remember actually almost tearing up. Like, I don't have a lot of tears to shed, but when I do, they really mean something, and it was for Shadow Moses.
That's awesome. We wept for Shadow Moses.
Yeah.
I want that on my, like, gravestone.
Well, the funny thing is, like, with wrestling, after a while, it's like, well, no one knows that. Every time I say, because I'm from the Bronx in New York, I don't sound like it, but that's where I grew up. But I always said, like, oh, from the Bronx to New York, but the announcers always get it wrong and say from Brooklyn, New York. And I was like, screw it, I'll just come up with something wacky. And it's like, say it's from Shadow Moses, New York. And he was like, what
That's
is
awesome.
what does that exist? And it's like, oh, it's from a
Wow.
video game. So if anyone knows what it's from and they see me at intermission, they can talk to me about it.
That's bad.
That was like
might be, my favorite wrestling thing.
That's my calling to any Metal Gear fans in a wrestling show, is just like, let's talk about Metal Gear for a little bit, because I literally, same case as you guys, the reason you guys came up with the show is that I'm in the same boat as you guys, where I had nobody to talk to about this game. Like, the people that I do, they only play it a little bit or just know very little about it, or only know that it's complicated but not as into it as I am, or as you guys are, or the fans of the show are. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, fuck yeah, man. This is gonna be a fun. This is gonna be a fun act. So yeah,
Right.
Act 4. As always, we start with our sort of obligatory mission briefing. Funny aside, Craven and I were talking before Isaac showed up, and Craven didn't realize that there was a mission briefing, and so you went back and you watched it. Is that right?
Well, I knew there was a mission briefing. I was thinking about it. I was like, I know where my save is, because I told you before, I have a specific save file for Shadow Moses, so if I ever felt like playing it, I can go to it. But I knew I wasn't gonna have the mission briefing, so what I forgot was that the mission briefings are in the main menu, so you can see them. You can see whichever one you want. But I ended up, before I even put the game on, a day before, I ended up just watching the mission briefing. It's like 20 minutes on YouTube, so I ended up watching that. So I didn't get to interact with it, like with the the Mark II or Mark III as it was going, so I couldn't collect anything. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think as far as the collection aspect goes, I think it's just like another attempt to get the Otacon face camo.
Okay. Because you guys keep saying that, because I didn't really look into much of, like, specifically how or what you collect throughout the game. So being someone who said that they're so obsessed with the game, I didn't look that much into it, but I think it's a matter of just getting older. But you guys kept mentioning how you bump into people and stuff comes out, and then I never even knew that. That was completely foreign to me.
Yeah, it's super weird. Like, I don't know if the item itself actually falls out, but if you ram people with the Mark II, it'll make a noise whenever you got a thing, and then after the mission briefing is over, it'll be like, here's what
it'll
got.
tell you.
Like
All
the
right.
pickup sound.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I maybe
have
have done it on accident, but I never realized that, like, if I actively just ran into people, I'll get it.
Yeah, I don't remember how I figured it out the first time, but I definitely figured it out whenever I was playing for the first time without a guide or anything.
I imagine it's where the characters are in a specific spot and you can't get around them. You just keep ramming into them, hoping they move.
Yeah. As always with the other mission briefings, this one does kind of open with that sort of like egg scene.
Yep.
The weird thing about this one is Sonny is singing the train stations, the Japanese train stations that AI Colonel Campbell kind of freaks out and says in MGS2.
Yeah.
And I think they make an appearance in the other games as well.
Yeah, and I believe also like at the beginning of all these briefings, whenever, and I don't remember if you guys mentioned it or if I saw it in like a retrospective thing on YouTube, how every time she makes an egg, the eggs are supposed to symbolize something or supposed to mean something for what's coming.
Yep.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
well,
so-
that explains the weird thing that happens with the yolk.
Yeah, the yolk
because
combines.
that doesn't happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
like yolks don't like combine in
So-
a frying pan.
Because I think it's supposed to be like Sunny is some type of fortune teller with her eggs, but she's not telling anyone the fortune. It just happens, and we see it. So,
that's
and
awesome.
for some reason, I was thinking the combining of the egg yolk was supposed to be, like, what is it? Liquid Suns is the title of the thing. So I'm thinking it's supposed to be, when Liquid and Ocelot combined. I think that's what it meant, maybe. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
That's at least how I saw it, trying to find the symbolism in that, because I knew the
For
eggs are supposed to mean something. So.
That's awesome. I had no idea. Well,
Yeah.
the more you know. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, so essentially for the most part, I mean, I know like all these mission briefings are roughly between like 15 and 20 minutes each. This one, for the most part, though, it kind of like it hits what it's going to tell you in like the first 5 minutes, and then they just repeat the same thing like 3 or 4 times. Like it's kind of frustrating that it
Yeah.
goes on for as long as it does, because like.
Like having
So
having that friend that has to force things to make it very dramatic when it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, kind of. Like, it's super weird because, so, like, for all intents and purposes, the mission briefing could have just been what we see at the very beginning, which is, like, the Mark II having jumped aboard the ship with Liquid and Naomi. We see, like, the video feed. And so we see this, like, eavesdropping of a conversation between Vamp, Naomi, and Liquid. And essentially what they say, and again, they're going to repeat this part several times, so we're just going to go ahead and say it right here. Liquid says, hey, we need to nuke JD, which is sort of the AI core that controls all of the Patriots systems. And then he's like, oh, it's hiding in space in some debris in a satellite. And then they're like, well, how are we going to do this? All the nukes are controlled by SOP. We need a loophole. Oh, like, let's go get Metal Gear Rex. We can shoot a nuke with its railgun. And then the video cuts out, and literally for the rest of this, it's Otacon telling Snake the exact same thing, and then Roy Campbell jumping on and being like, y'all talking about Metal Gear Rex? And he tells us the exact same thing. And, like, it's super weird. He's
I
just
love
like,
your perception of
Rex.
it. He's just like, hey, Colonel Campbell here. You guys talking about Metal Gear Rex? That's cool.
I want to
Here's
talk
my
about
2
it.
cents.
Y'all talking about Shadow Moses? I love that shit. What's going on? Like, it was the weirdest. Like, I don't know. I just don't
Yeah.
understand how, like, Roy even knows what. Because, like, every time he Kodak calls, I don't know if it's just like he's saying the same shit and they just don't want to be like, Roy, we already know, dude. Or if it's just like, I don't know. It's like he has to be listening in somehow. Is what it feels like.
He just has it on the background.
Yeah, dude, he knows. But yeah, to kind of go a little bit more in depth as to why the hell Rex is required to nuke this AI in space. Essentially what it is like they go a little bit in depth, mainly because Mei Ling calls, which is super dope. We get to see sort of MGS4 graphics version of Mei Ling. And she calls from aboard the Missouri, which she says is the only boat, which is super weird. It's the only boat that's not controlled by the SOP. And so she's like, oh, it's fine. Like, I can use this boat. I will meet you guys. Let's all go to Shadow Moses because I've been able to trace that that's where Liquid and company are going because they want the Metal Gear Rex. And then Roy Campbell kind of tells us Metal Gear Rex never got retrieved after the first game. So literally for the past however many years, 16 years-ish, there's just been a Metal Gear in the middle of a base, in the middle of an island in Alaska, doing
Just a
nothing.
nuclear robot just hanging out there, just sleeping.
Yeah,
That shouldn't work at all.
Essentially sleeping. Yeah, it's hibernating. And so they're like, we got to go out there because essentially what it is the Metal Gear was built before SOP started getting integrated into all of the Metal Gears. And so Rex can be piloted manually, and they can use the railgun on Rex to shoot a nuke into space without requiring clearance. I want to ask you guys a question. I'm not a scientist, but I feel like if you nuke something that's in the Earth's orbit, that good things absolutely cannot happen. So
Like the
even if he
specifics,
does-
I don't know, but
Yeah, like, if he
I'm pretty
hits
sure
the
that's not
satellite,
good.
Like, yeah, like I just even if he hits his target, isn't that gonna like fucking permanently ruin parts of the planet?
Well, you saw Iron Giant, right? He did the same thing, and everybody survived. So
That's true.
by
Maybe it's fine.
by that
I guess
theory,
you don't know until you find out.
we'll see.
The big thing too that I thought was kind of curious is like they do like some kind of weird hand waving where they're like, oh, everyone who was involved with Shadow Moses either died, or they're us, and so like no one knows. It's fine.
Yeah.
That felt really weird to me. Like I feel like, especially like if we take Metal Gear Solid 2's kind of extra options as canon. Natasha Romanenko wrote a fucking book about Shadow Moses.
I read that whole thing. Yep.
Yeah, and then another guy, like a journalist or something, wrote a book about Shadow Moses.
I read that 3 times.
Yeah, with the weird thing about peanut butter and tuna. Do you remember
Yeah.
that part? It was super weird.
Yeah.
But like if both of those things exist in the universe of Metal Gear, why the fuck didn't somebody like go check out this Shadow Moses place?
Well, if that journalist is, telling any truth to what adventure he went on, because I try to imagine in my head every single time I've read it, and it's like it just comes out very ridiculous. There should be like a little mini cartoon of it,
Yeah, right.
because he comes in just riding like with the insulation of a big giant fish over his body from what it says in the book, and then in the end he's like captured by some military, and then he is saved by some dark figure. He doesn't know who it is, so we don't. And I was never sure who it was alluding to. It's like, well,
Yeah.
Snake is not just hanging out at Shadow Moses. He can't be, and also it's like it can't be Frank. He's dead. He got crushed. It's like, who the hell would it be? So it seemed like a weird ending to it all. But like, yeah, it's an insane story, and I think a
It's
cartoon
good.
of it would
I
be
wish
really
somebody
cool.
would do it. Yeah, somebody should do that on YouTube or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. Anyway, long story short, we're all just going to Shadow Moses.
Yeah.
And right as I was like, cool, like let's finish the cutscene and let's just do this thing. Raiden in the corner is just like, don't forget about me. And like everyone's just coughing because like, by the way, like this whole time Snake's just like hacking up along the whole cutscene to the point where it's kind of I don't know, just kind of distracting where like people are talking and then dude just like almost throws up several times.
Yeah.
Or at least it sounds like it. And then essentially Raiden and Snake get into this like I wrote in my notes full-blown poetry battle.
Oh my
with
God,
each other.
yeah, I took that away from it too. It's like these guys are talking to each other in a way that two men like this would never talk to each other. One of them being half robot, one of them being a freaking clone that it has accelerated aging. It just seems very odd.
It's like everywhere I go is shadow. And then Raiden's like, I don't have a family. And then Snake's just like, nowhere that you go with
like-
me will ever have the daylight.
They're
It's
trying
like,
to
what the fuck
outbitter
are you
each
talking
other.
about?
It's like,
Yeah,
you're not meant to
exactly.
live. Well, like I have no family and I have no this. Yeah, well, like I can't reproduce. Or yeah, well.
Yeah, my favorite is Snake's just like, I'm about to become a walking weapon of mass destruction. And then Raiden's like, all
Like
right,
he
dude,
should,
you got me. Like,
he should gloat about that, if anything. It's like,
Yeah, it
I'm
was-
a fucking weapon, son.
I will say this is the first time I noticed that Rex, like REX, is capitalized. If anybody knows what the hell Rex stands for, or if it's like
idea.
even an anagram or anything like that of anything, I don't think it's like each letter stands for a thing because I don't see any periods. But yeah, it's just interesting to me that Rex and Ray are always capitalized.
Yeah. Yeah, I never really noticed that either. Like I'm searching to see if anything comes up, but nothing is really sticking out what it's supposed to mean.
For sure. I'm sure it like I don't know. I'm sure it has something to do with like the reference to the animal or the fact that it's like a weapon.
Yeah.
Did you guys? So they mentioned that like okay, I thought it was interesting that they were like, oh man, Shadow Moses Island, like the water is rising. So I kind of get this implication that it's like due to global warming, which I thought was actually fun. That Metal Gear is just like the ice caps are melting, dog, and it's like cool. Like our whole fucking country can't even agree on this, but Metal Gear sure as fuck knows what it's all about.
Yeah.
they're just like, ice caps are melting. Shadow Moses is like falling into the ocean. Like, hurry up and go. So I kind of had it like, it was neat. I felt like there was a little bit of urgency, even though like islands don't go underwater overnight. So I don't really know what that was all about. But on top of that, I will say that for me, it sort of seemed like in the midst of like a pretty serious conversation here at the end, Snake fell asleep. Did you guys get that as well? I feel like Snake, like I know that he wakes up after the next scene, but it feels like he totally just like dozed off in the middle of this conversation on the Nomad.
Yeah. I don't really remember that, but I think maybe a little bit. I'm not really sure if I remember that.
Towards the end?
I just watched this like a few days ago.
Yeah, at the very, very end, if you notice, like right after Raiden's like, all right, I won't go with you. I'll let you do your thing. And Otacon's like, all right, let's go. If you look, Snake just like his head kind of slumps.
Okay, yeah.
And like he just kind of like, he looks like he's just like silently like breathing and singing. And like it's almost like in the middle of talking, he's just like, I'm too old.
Ooh, it's all that poetry just completely wore him out.
Yeah, I bet. That's true.
Oh man.
And then he wakes up.
This is definitely the act of old age too.
Yeah.
I feel like at some point, this whole act just becomes old man jokes for like the rest of the act. But anyway, let's get to the fucking meat and potatoes of this act that everybody wants to hear about. So Snake falls asleep. What happens after Snake falls asleep? Okay.
I wasn't sure if I was going or Isaac was going.
I expected everyone to be
I
really
didn't know
excited.
what was going on.
Holy shit, it's Metal Gear Solid 1. And holy shit, this is the reason why this game can't be on any other format. Because Sony, I'm pretty positive, owns the rights partially to Metal Gear Solid 1. And the fact that this scene is in the game means that you'll probably never see this game on PC or Xbox.
Yeah.
But holy shit, like it's literally like Metal Gear Solid 1 is inside of Metal Gear Solid 4.
And so I'm going to say I guess for Isaac it's a little bit different because this is his first time playing that. But for at least for you, Alessio, when you got to this part, probably not so much for you because you probably played part 1 so much, but like I kind of had a mini freak out trying to figure out, holy crap, how am I going to control this? How am I going to do this? Like this weird, like I don't know. I kind of somewhat even though I played it so many times, I kind of had a little mini freak out because of the adjustment, but I also just nostalgia freak out, just like, oh my god, I'm playing a little bit of the first game. Like how, like am I going to play and then it's just going to morph back into the game, or do I have to play up to a certain point? Are they going to make me play the entire Metal Gear Solid 1 before I continue the game? So like, I was really unsure.
Like play all of it.
Yeah.
What were your reactions to the play-by-play?
I'm guessing I had the same reaction as Craven, and it was like a sort of a mini freak out because I was like, "What happened?" So
the game broke.
Yeah,
it looks really weird.
It was very bizarre, but it was very cool, and I was like, trying to remember what I did the first time through, because I was like, crap. I hope I can remember where to go.
Yeah, you've had everything just like microcosmically shoved into your brain in the last like 15 months.
A little bit.
Where it's like most people have been able to like, I guess, play all of these games like
multiple times
over the course of like a couple of years.
Yeah, I've had like one little playthrough and then on to the next one.
Hurry up.
To me, in my head, I just imagine Alessio just having Isaac in a bunker where Isaac lives with hired mercenaries, just having him like, here, play this. Okay, 15-minute break, come back, play this.
It's like that.
Keep playing this. Okay, now this.
What's
Read
that little mini show where that guy that really sucks at video games?
Game Center CX,
yes,
the greatest show ever. Game Center CX is so good. Yeah, you're like Arino.
That's like me because I suck at video games.
We should just film that. Have you ever seen that show, Craven? As a quick aside,
I can't say I have. It doesn't sound familiar.
Oh, it's so fucking
It's
good.
hilarious.
Okay, so Spike TV actually picked up the first season and I think they dubbed it or they did subtitles. But I think you can go on YouTube and find like whole episodes.
Wait, what is it?
So it's called Game Center CX.
Game Center.
Of the show
Okay.
is this guy named Arino is made the manager of a video store, and he's been made the manager of like the video game department, but he doesn't know anything about video games. So what they do is it's partially like reality TV and partially like staged, but like Arino's not really the video manager of a game section, but in real life, the guy who plays Arino is awful at video games.
Yeah.
So the whole show is them filming him playing like the hardest, most like obscure, fucking crazy video games.
Man, this must have came out when like I just stopped watching Spike TV, because this was a good period of time where I
So
stopped
funny.
watching it. Because this
It's
must
super
have came out after what is it, or maybe that was the freaking the one that was before Ninja Warrior, the dubbed one.
Oh yeah.
MXC.
Yeah.
Oh,
MXC.
yeah.
It's
MXC.
almost in that same vein where
Yeah,
they like
it
picked
seems
up,
like
a
it.
weird Japanese show. It's really good though.
Yeah.
And then like in the middle of it, they'll do like he actually goes to the game developer and interviews them about the game he's
Yeah.
playing sometimes. But it's super crazy. So yeah,
Wow.
I could not give a better recommendation.
I gotta check
of, like,
that
a
out.
weird show. But yeah, that's Isaac.
That's
for
me.
Metal Gear Monday.
I'm locked in a room
We have to
for
give Isaac like hot
2
pads
years.
from time to time and like help bandage his hands. But
Oh,
yeah,
man.
so it's crazy. And for everybody at home who maybe has never had experience with this game or like don't have access to play the game, I would definitely recommend Tetra Ninja, YouTube user Tetra Ninja, has like an entire walkthrough. I think it's in 43 parts. It's pretty good. He does a little bit of commentating, but it's not like over cutscenes or anything, so you can effectively watch the game. But the part of MGS1 that we do get to play is the helipad. So it's like right after the dock section, but right before the tank room, and we just get this super cool helipad section that has all the bells and whistles of the actual Metal Gear Solid 1. Like they didn't strip anything down at all.
No.
But there is no SOCOM in the truck, which sucks. But there's the chaff grenades in the middle of the helipad with the spotlights. There's the guards patrolling. There's the sort of camera cutscene. And I think essentially it's from like the moment you enter the building, either from above or below, that it just like goes back
Snaps
to
up.
Yeah,
MGS4.
and you just wake up and it's almost like you have the mask on and you morphs from Metal Gear Solid 1 Snake to Metal Gear Solid 4 Snake.
It's
Yeah.
super cool. And then Snake says like, I had that dream again, which is kind of funny.
He's constantly
It's, like,
dreaming of that
reliving.
one part.
Yeah. Did you guys do any? Because I mean, honestly, I kind of beelined it just because. So the reason why we were on break last week is because I moved into a house and me and my wife got sick and just all
Oh,
kinds
not
of
that.
crazy shit happened. And I know it's cool that we live in a house now, but it
Yeah.
was just very stressful and we had to like move in the middle of like literally a 4-day thunderstorm.
Oh.
So it was a little crazy.
Yeah, the
but,
weather working against you.
Yeah, I would have liked to have been able to like play and take my time, but instead I had to like slam
Book it.
through this.
Yeah.
Did you guys kind of discover any sort of neat little things during this sort of like flashback sequence, or
Isaac, I'll let
is
you
that
go
pretty
first.
much it?
I didn't really discover anything new per se. I did explore around because I was feeling a little bit nostalgic and sneaking around, I guess, and crunching the snow.
Snakes?
Sneaky. But then I forgot where I was supposed to go. I was like,
You're in a box. And you're just like, where do I?
I forgot about the vents for a second there. And yeah, so
That's awesome.
there's that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
all the original sound effects and everything are there, which
Yeah.
is super cool. Like, I will say the one thing that's kind of aggravating is if you're playing on like an HD TV, it does like standard def, the MGS1 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like the
Oh,
rest
yeah.
of the game is like almost, I want to say it's 1080p. It might be 900p. I don't know.
Yeah.
But whenever it goes to the MGS1 stuff, it's just like a box in the middle.
Yeah,
of the
just a
TV,
little box. But
which is fine. I'm sure they didn't want to up-res anything, but
yeah, but it didn't really need it. Like at least it was how we remembered it, if anything.
for sure.
But when I got to this point when I jumped down and then Snake is like, oh, my back. And But then
Just like that, actually.
yeah, and then Otacon tells you that there's a gecko in the area because you land a little bit more in the outskirts of what you're familiar with, and so you're landing in a hill area and you got to go down to where the helipad is. So, but there's a gecko there, and I thought I remembered there was like two of them, but I think it was just one, and at least when I was playing it this time. And I remember that freaking me out, and the gecko still just freaked me out because I thought it was like a weird thing to deal with because I'm such a freaking pussy. But but just like I was able to sneak past it no problem without attacking it. I think like playthroughs after my first playthrough, I would use a Crying Wolf's rifle. I would carry that over, and I would use that and just like let it charge and get it in one shot, and. Which I ended up doing later on, but
yeah,
no,
some tough little bastards, man.
Yeah, they are, and especially if you're just trying to use a regular gun and bullets, it's a tough and a huge waste of time. But you get down to the area, and then it starts playing the theme that plays at the end of Metal Gear Solid 1, which that is a song that I grew obsessed with. Ever since I finished the first game, I love the sound of that music. I don't understand what it's saying, but I love how beautiful it sounds. And like that's a song I even listen to at the gym. I would still listen to it to this day. It's one of those things that people hear me listen to. It's like, what the hell are you listening to? It's like, this is really out of character for you. It's like, I really love this freaking song, and I think because of what it means to me. But I would
I think that moment too when you crest the hill, because like. So essentially what happens is when Snake wakes up from his like flashback dream, he then gets to where he needs to be. Otacon dumps him off, and then essentially we're in the middle of like a huge snowstorm. And what's super dope is like you're kind of like, at least for me, I was going through this snowstorm area and was like, where the fuck am I? Like, am I gonna see parts of Shadow Moses that I didn't get to see during 1?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was hoping for too, is like seeing things I haven't seen before, but then they just they kind of throw things in there that were never there in the first place.
Yeah, you like hit the top of the hill, and like the snow is pretty intense, so you can't see that far.
Yeah,
and then
it gets all over the screen.
Top of the hill, yeah, all of a sudden you're just in the middle of the heliport in modern day, which is super cool. Yeah. So that's kind of like taking us up to where we're at now.
Yeah. So we're at the helipad. I did kind of explore around to see if I'll find anything, and pretty much nostalgically they kind of put stuff as if they should, like rations would be in the same spot that they were years ago. What was supposed to be like 9 years ago. That
it's like,
you
shit,
originally
you got it at this point.
Yeah, like I already got this already, didn't I? And it's still here, but it should be frozen. I shouldn't be able to eat it. But no, they have stuff just planted kind of in similar spots. They still have the chaff grenades in that same spot. For some reason, I was thinking there was going to be like a quick little flashback when you go to the camera and you go surveillance camera, and I thought it was gonna be a little thing, but I must have remembered wrong or whatever. But then you can crawl through a vent in that room where that camera was into the other side, which I don't remember if that was there before. Was it?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it was.
Yeah, because like 2 rooms. Like I'm kind of thinking that maybe it was there before, at least one of the rooms, but yeah, it's I don't remember that being there in the first game, being able to crawl through a vent and get to the other side, and there's this room that you can't really get out of, but you crawl to the other side, and then there's a room you can get out of. It's supposed to be right in front.
I can't remember. I feel like there are a couple different ways to get into that tank area from some lower vents, but I don't know if there's one in that surveillance camera room.
Yeah, in the first game, no, but in this one you're able to go through and just kind of get some stuff, and there's like a little cot there you can go under and get some stuff. But then in this case, the tank hangar door is kind of cracked open. And you can go right through the front door. Yeah, it's like, I can go through. So I can go right through the front door.
I spent so long not going through this front door. Now I can do it.
Yeah. But yeah, they had to make it a lot more complicated by having. Do these things have a name? The freaking trench coat guys.
They're creepy guys.
The creepy ball hand guys.
Creepy balls.
Well, I guess not, because like geckos are the huge Metal Gears.
Yeah.
So geckos are the Metal Gears, and then frogs are the
chicks.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell the little balls are called. Let me hold on. Metal Gear Solid 4 ball enemies. What the hell are these things called? Somebody's gonna be like, dwarf geckos. That's
dwarf geckos.
Huh.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
But yeah.
Somebody that was listening to us is just like, God damn it, guys.
Somebody's new. I should have known, but no. But no, like it had a bunch of those in there, which like you see them rolling around and stuff. And at the time, I had no idea how to really sneak past those because you don't really. That's the first time you're encountering them to where you're in a situation where you have to try and sneak past them. I believe.
I kind of cheated and just like threw the chaff grenade. I was
Okay.
like, fuck it. I know, like you have to pay to unlock the chaff grenade, and I know you can't buy more chaff grenades, and you can only carry 4 at a time. So like it's a little bit of a limited resource. But I was like, fuck it, and just like threw it so I could run through.
Yeah.
And if you do that and I don't know if it's just like different difficulty modes or whatever, but there's actually like 2 geckos in the tank arena that you fought Vulcan Raven in.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like my chaff grenade just like lingered long enough, but like they never triggered for me.
Really?
Did they
Okay.
trigger for you guys? Because you can see them like balled up in the corner.
Yeah, they triggered for me definitely.
Yeah.
But I also cheated because I unlocked the javelin.
Oh shit! Yeah.
demolished
So you pulled
them.
a Sam.
Yeah, a little bit.
So my first time playing through, it's like I think I wanted to sneak past them because I love trying to sneak, but I end up not being that great at it. So I ended up just getting spotted right away because I wasn't sure how their mechanism worked, and then I noticed with the whole laser thing that it is. But I don't think I ever really tried using the chaff grenade. I knew it probably work, but I don't know. I think maybe I tried it and it just didn't last long, and I pretty much the first time around, I just started shooting them all. So I just started shooting them all. But then the gecko would come to that front door eventually from where you originally started, and would come there and start attacking too. So you have to attack that as well. So I was kind of in a situation where I had to do that. And this time around, I just went through the vent. I went to the top vent. But then as soon as I got out, and I was like, as soon as I get out, I'm going to get spotted. At least this time around when I played. And then I got down, and I immediately got spotted. And I'm like, damn it. So I just, I jumped all the way down. I got into, like, I think I ran through the door, the door where you have to call Meryl, like that door with the gas, and you have to use a cigarette
like the
to get through.
cargo door or
Yes, that cargo door. And I get there, and before I open or I go through the other side, I'm just kind of sitting there and just kind of letting them. I think they just stopped looking for me, so I just started kind of sniping them with my rifle, and just kind of shooting them. Like you give them a couple shots and they'll explode, and I just kind of doing that, picking them off like one by one. So I want to explore the tank hangar a little bit more and see if I find anything I never found before. And but I didn't really find a whole lot, but it was still kind of fun. I want to see if the elevator worked. I don't think I ever tried before. But
that was the thing that pissed me off the most, is like there were so many things that I wanted to check out, and I was just like, fuck, I do not have time. I just have to go.
Yeah.
And I was just like, ugh. But I'll definitely, since this playthrough I've been saving like in every zone, I'll definitely be sure to like come back and fuck around at some point.
yeah.
But yeah, dude, it's super fun. It's a cool revisiting. Did it mess with any of you guys that it never had to load? Because like having played the original Metal Gear, I was so used to like, oh, I just went through the door. Let me wait for the load screen.
Yeah,
and
that
it just
did
never did that.
That did cross my mind how odd it was that like it wasn't loading. And I think the only time it did load is when you got past the gecko in the first area where you fight Raven, where one of them did wake up for me. I think you said they didn't wake up. Or they did.
They didn't wake up for me. I don't know if
Okay.
it's just because I threw the chaff grenade the moment I saw the geckos in the tank hangar.
Okay.
And so I don't know if I just like went fast enough to where the other geckos didn't get triggered.
Okay.
Either, or if
I
just
think
got
as soon as
lucky
I got
or
close to one of them woke up, but the other one didn't. And so it was the one on the right side that woke up, and he started going around, and you hear Otacons like, "Oh my God, that gecko! He's awake!" And then I just kind of sneak past him, and I was able to just sneak past him and all that without them seeing me. But yeah, it was. I just couldn't remember. It's like, do they wake up or do they not wake up? It's like my period between playing this game, it's like been so long that like little things I just start to forget. But yeah, that little portion freaked me out. I think I remember the first time them both waking up though. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I guess it's just different
I'd be
for everybody.
curious. Yeah, I
probably
know
on a
like harder
randomizer.
difficulties, it's supposed to be like pretty tough as
Yeah.
well. So I wasn't sure if it was just a normal difficulty thing, but
Well, it's like
Well-
one of those things that reminds me because, you know, the different difficulties. And I don't remember if you guys talked about it when you're playing Metal Gear Solid 2. Was that because I remember playing on hard on Metal Gear Solid 2. When you get to the point where you have to freeze the bombs, there's more bombs. So it's
there's a
like
shit ton.
Yeah, there's like one more additional bomb in different areas. And I remember, like, I think in that one little area that you have to go through to get to the bridge that has all the bombs that you can't get past until like you're done with that section, that I couldn't find the bomb, and then I realized it was like right behind me or some shit like that, or I think it was like right under me in a really odd spot or some shit like that.
Yeah, truthfully, I mean the difficulty modes do kind of shift the game.
Yeah, which I think is really freaking cool that they do that. They really make it they don't just make the enemies harder like with longer lifespan or longer health bars, but they add difficulty in every aspect instead of just one.
For sure. It's almost like doing like a new game plus in like Dark Souls 1 or something.
All right.
Or Dark Souls 2, excuse me. Well, sick. Yeah, so right after that, too, we, like you guys sort of alluded to, we end up in the Warhead building, kind of the nuclear disposal area from the original game. There's no nanomachine lockout to keep you from firing your gun this time, which is great. There aren't any enemies. I don't think there are any enemies in this zone either right now or when you come back, truthfully. So it's
not when
pretty easy.
not when you're going through and you get to the elevator and then you get to that computer room.
For sure. Which is nice that they give you like time to kind of, and they totally intentionally are like, hey, take it in.
Yeah.
Go for a walk, kid. You deserve it. So it's like very fan servicey. But I dig it. Don't stay out in the cold for too terribly long, because if you notice, like not only does Snake get snow covered on his suit, but he can also get sick and stuff like that, which sucks. So it's cool to kind of be able to kind of jet straight into this sort of inner area. Yeah, essentially what ends up happening is Otacon's like, hey, just use the door. And Snake's like, what? Like, I don't have to use the elevator? He's like, no, just go use the door. And then Snake goes to the door, and the door's like, I'm locked. And Otacon's like, fuck. You do have to go to my office. My bad. And Snake's like, all right.
Well, it's
And
like
so
you have this little bit of a tone from Snake where I kind of took it as like, oh, okay, I kind of wanted to do it this way, but I guess I'll do it the easy way.
Yeah.
That's kind of a little bit what I got from it.
It's good. It's funny. So there's a little bit of sort of back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah.
And then, like, of course, the game is just like, nah, dog, like, go see more of your favorite places.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we do. We take the elevator down to, I think, B2. I don't think the B1 button works.
Yeah,
Is that
just
correct?
B2.
Yeah.
And so we go down to B2, where, if you remember correctly, essentially you can do the whole Nikita sort of hallway sequence, and this is right before the Cyborg Ninja hallway. And so I think it still remains in the way that it remained then. So, like, the glass is blown out from where you shot the Nikita at the generator.
Yeah.
You can't go through. So, like, when you go straight down and it T-bones, you can't go left because the door is blocked with debris. But you can go through the window, and there's a song in there. I think it's like an anniversary, 20-year anniversary song or something, and a couple items. But for the most part, you're just going to the Cyborg Ninja hallway. And then to Otacon's office. What's cool is, like, and we didn't mention this earlier, but when you go past specific areas, like on the helipad or in this Cyborg Ninja hallway, it'll do this, like, sound, and then you'll hear, like, an audio clip that's, like, echoed out and kind of flashbacky from the original game. So you'll hear things like, oh, hi, D, or you'll hear things like, oh, my God, like when the ninja's, like, cutting people in half and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's super neat, but you end up in Otacon's old office, and it's not only a nostalgia trip for us, but also a nostalgia trip for the characters, because they talk all about, like, hey, this is where we first met, and, like, how crazy is this?
And there was a little spot when he tells you to go to that door, to just go to the door, and it turns out you can't open it. He gives you a code to remember. And it's kind of like a challenge to the player and a jab at Snake as well, because I remember playing it the first time. I was hyper alert the first time I played, so I remember the number. I wrote it down, but this time I think because, like, you know, I take commissions from people to, like, make stuff and all that, so I was, like, going back and forth with, like, 2 people on my phone while playing the game. So while the cutscene was going, I completely missed the point where Otacon told me the number. I thought it was coming later, so I was thinking, And so I got to this part, and he's like, "Do you remember that code?" And I was like, "Shit, I don't remember him saying any numbers. Oh my god, this is the first time I'm gonna forget the code." So I was like, "Well, I don't know what happens. I guess I'll do it." And I just put in a random number, and he was like, "Snake, that's not the code." Oh,
Yeah, didn't
man.
the psych meter go down as well?
I think it goes down a little bit, and then and then he just kind of belittles Snake a little bit and just kind of gives him grief about his memory. And then Snake goes, because like, "Oh, I have it written down right here." And it's like, if you had it written down in the first place, what the hell you need me to remember for? But
Yeah, right.
but then Snake's like, "Oh yeah, I just remembered it right now." Like right after you did, it's like that insecurity. It's like, "Oh yeah, I knew that. Yeah, I just didn't remember it then." But yeah, that was like the first time I dealt with that, and it was just like, God damn, I did not hear when that actually happened.
Yeah, it's funny. There's stuff like that, and like Otacon calls him like an old geezer at one point, and all this other stuff. So it's kind of weird. I know the minute we entered Otacon's office, my immediate first thought was, "Oh, I wish there was a pee stain, like where Otacon peed himself." And then later they name drop it. They're like, "Oh, there's still a stain." I was like, "Oh, that's weird." But yeah, there's the Police Knots poster where it still used to be, which is super cool. They've replaced one of the posters with the Zone of the Enders 2, which I was sort of like, hey, wait a minute, you didn't used to be here. And Snake has to keep jabbing himself with more syringe drugs, just because he feels like shit. But essentially, Otacon's cutting on the power and unlocking the doors and stuff like that. But he comes across some surveillance tapes where we can see that Otacon notices that Naomi and Vamp are actually, like, they've been here a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
So the stakes are kind of higher now. Which it's weird, the moment that like they're like, "Oh man, the stakes are high. They've been here a little while ago." All of a sudden, Otacon and Snake start shit talking Naomi, having like a boys powwow, and I'm like, shouldn't you be speeding up?
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys doing?
Shouldn't be focused on the task at hand instead of just like, berating some chick that you thought betrayed you.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, why don't you guys ask her when you get there and just go ahead and get there. It's a little bizarre, but and also we forgot to mention, so the Metal Gear Mark II has been lost to conflict, and now we have a Metal Gear Mark III, which I think is just different in name. I don't know if there's actually any.
Oh, and there was something I wanted to point out when they were on the boat, when the Mark II was on the boat, how because it has like these little cursors that focus on certain points. When it's on the men, it focuses on their faces, but when it was on Naomi, it focused on her butt and on her legs.
God damn it, Metal Gear! Even you're a pervert.
And it goes like right between her legs, and then it like hits her, and then she looks at it, and then he grab it and all that stuff.
Isn't that Snake controlling the Mark II?
Was it?
Oh yeah, maybe.
So,
well, I don't think he was controlling it whenever it was on.
No,
the
maybe
boat,
I think when it was on the boat, when it
Wait,
was just kind of on its own.
maybe one
I think
of
it was.
them.
I'm assuming it was Otacon. It has to be Otacon because Snake is probably sleeping, but Otacon had to be controlling it because it was kind of alone and it jump on there. So I think because I think the whole idea is that the Mark II is following you around the entire time. So so Otacon has to be controlling because that's Otacon's way of being at your side the entire time. But then in order to make sense of you being able to control, or at least the Mark II just kind of roaming around and you getting information, it has to make it look like Snake is controlling it. And I think that's just like a little gem to throw in there at the fan to show Snake on a PS3 controller, controlling a little robot. I think that's really what it mainly is. But I think ideally what it's supposed to be is Otacon controlling the Mark 2 or 3 the entire time.
For sure. Well, and I'd say too, on top of that, there was an interesting tidbit where I noticed that on the screen for the Mark II, it says like OLED, which is like the OLED is like Sony's sort of like proprietary screen tech or whatever. So it's like the same screen that they use on like the PlayStation Vita and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's just a bunch of weird like Sony
it's like
jerking.
Hardcore Sony advertisement throughout the entire game.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, outside of that too, there are a shit ton of flashbacks, like the press X to see flashback, just like in this whole section for obvious reasons. But one of my favorite things was they all get nostalgic about the fucking key cards.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Are you kidding?"
There's
me?
a flashback
like,
for the key cards.
Everyone hated that.
Yeah,
yeah. I was like, "What are you talking about? I don't want to have a fucking level 5 card that can't open level 2 doors.
Yeah,
like, don't mourn the loss of the key card.
Yeah, because even in Twin Snakes for the GameCube, they changed that too, to where whichever card, I think that's what they did. They changed it to where you didn't have to keep switching. It was just kind of like part 2, where whatever updated, like if you had the highest level card, then that was the one card you needed to open up the lower levels. Like it made sense, but yeah. But that was an annoying aspect of the game, is that like you had to keep switching the cards, and it's like, God, this freaking sucks.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and that sort of concludes a little bit of like the nostalgia trip within the office. I mean, there's some things in here like compress and like rations. And
Was the PS1
Playboy magazines?
Was the PS1 still there? I don't remember looking around.
Look for it.
I didn't look around for some reason.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It would have been really funny if they put a GameCube in there.
Yeah.
I know there's a
yeah,
bunch of
double check.
like police knots posters hanging up and whatnot,
Hell yeah.
but
Yeah, I just can't remember if that sucks. Damn it. I'll double check. We'll double check. If you know, please write in and tell us. But yeah, so we essentially just go back up to the elevator and go back up to the floor.
Well, there's also the gecko that was in that the electrified floor room area.
Oh,
It's a matter of sneaking past that thing, and like how do you guys deal with that situation right there?
Fuck, I'm trying to remember what I did now. I didn't even take a note.
you probably
of it.
just sneaked right past them then.
Yeah,
Probably.
because this is a point where
I think I chaff grenaded again.
Did you?
I think I was speed running this.
Okay,
shit.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
just
you
like,
were.
Grenade, I'm out of here.
No, like the first time around, I freaked out because it just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like a jump scare in the game, as jump scares get in that game. But I didn't use the chaff. I didn't notoriously use the chaff grenade like as much as like you're really supposed to, I guess. But I snuck around and I kept thinking like, because the electrified controls are active, like they show, it kind of highlights like you can still use it. But I go up there. Because I think the first time around I kept trying. I fought the thing. I kept trying to destroy it. But I was like, I really want to use electrified floor. There has to be a way. I never did it before. And then I crawl, I go around after it turns around and all that. And I get to that little panel, and for some reason I immediately just realized that, oh yeah, it's the Mark III that's going to turn it on, not Snake. So I automatically started using the Mark III. Mark III has the little the wire to connect to the thing and just kind of whip at it and turn it on. You turn on the electrified floor and it destroys the Mark or the gecko right off the bat. So
That's badass. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Well, right on. Yeah, I think right after this, so we hit the elevator, we go back to sort of the top of the warhead area, and then we kind of book it for the door. I can't remember if there were any dwarf geckos that appear.
No dwarf
the gecko
geckos.
came back.
A gecko appears out of nowhere. Like an RKO just appeared out of nowhere. Like, where the hell this thing come from? Was it just hanging out on the level that we couldn't even get to? Like, it just comes, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I got to deal with this too? I have
used
no
the
way to
elevator.
destroy this. Huh? I know. He used the elevator, but like, where did he come from?
Where did he go? Where did he come from, Cotton Eye?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, that was awful.
Yeah.
I'll let myself out. I apologize, gentlemen. But yeah, so as we kind of get through this area, it's super weird. There's 2 boss fights in this act, and this first boss fight's like right the fuck here.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, boom, here you go for it. You did good. So this act is kind of, at least this first half of the act is very chill. Like, it's just like,
Nostalgia.
you had a fun nostalgia trip.
Yeah.
Now fight a boss. But we're kind of, essentially what I did was I kind of, you get like an SVD in a storage room before the cutscene area and some ammo and stuff like that. There's a shit ton of stun grenades. And so I bought the stun grenades and smoke grenades unlocked through Drebin to kind of prep for this. Also, I was doing a little bit of homework to see if I could find like an easy way to take the boss down that wouldn't take forever, because I knew that this fight was a little bit more time intensive. And I found a neat little trick, which I will tell you guys about when we get to it.
All right.
But essentially we trigger this cutscene with a big scary dog railgun Beauty and the Beast unit member. It's the one from the beginning that took down the fucking war dozer.
Yeah.
And here we are, essentially Snake's just kind of like hawking up along still. This Beauty and the Beast member just like pops out of the back of the dog and uses the railgun as like a sniper rifle. and essentially tries to snipe Snake's face, and then he dodges it like the Matrix, and the boss fight begins. So, and a bunch of frogs are here too, just to kind of make things worse. But essentially, we're in the Sniper Wolf arena, and this is, I guess, this is this game's version of the end, in a way, like the sniper boss battle, where it's like this huge open area in the middle of a snowstorm with a bunch of frogs, and we have to find the boss. And she randomly generates kind of where she's at the beginning of the map when you fight. So it's a little different for everybody, but I wanted to kind of round robin this thing and let you guys kind of tell me about how your experiences went first before I kind of dive into what I did on mine.
Isaac?
Craven, would you like to? Isaac, would you like to go first?
Man.
Yeah, let's do that. Isaac, we'll do the Isaac. Isaac, how was yours? Your first time?
Well, I will say it was frustrating, to be concise. I died a lot during this part. I thought it was a lot of fun because it was the snowstorms kicking up and you can't really see very well, so you got to put the night vision goggles on. With that being said, if you're going about this the way that they want you to, and I think it's with sniping and whatnot, because Otacon comes in and says, "Use the sniper, Snake."
Otacon comes in and says, "Let me tell you how to play."
Yeah. So I tried that a couple times, and it was very frustrating because I could not get consistent shots off. And it was getting time crunched to when we were recording this. So I was like, crap, I'm not going to be able to complete this part. So actually, I might have done what you did, Alessio, if I could guess, because you said smoke grenades and
oh shit!
And,
I think you did do what I did.
Stun grenades. So I watched this playthrough, and this guy's crazy. He beats beats Crying Wolf in like 2 minutes, something like that.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's like less than a minute.
Yeah.
Probably. It's like 45 seconds once he actually finds.
So
her
basically,
in the
what he
battlefield.
does, he gets his night vision goggles on, and he books it to where he thinks Crying Wolf is. And so I do the same thing, which is towards you go up to the left a little bit, and you try to avoid the frogs and everybody, which is not too bad. And then what you do is you alternate between once you find Crying Wolf, the beast, alternate between throwing smoke grenades and stun grenades. And all it takes is like 3 stun grenades, and it's gone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy because like so
So-
you smoke grenade it, and then the Crying Wolf just like kind of gets like, I don't know, she like starts
Paralyzed
coughing and is
almost,
kind
yeah.
of stuck. Yeah,
Wow.
and then you toss like 3 stuns, and they do a shit ton of non-lethal. And then you just throw another smoke, and she can't move, and you just do 3 more stuns, and it's over.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Damn.
So
Man, I never knew that.
So that's what we did. Good job, Isaac.
I feel like I
Sorry.
wasted 40 minutes of my life.
Team Isaac and Alessio on this one.
sorry to steal your thunder, Alessio, but
Oh, no, you're
Weird.
fine. It was fun. It was crazy. I didn't even realize that like we could do that until I stumbled across the same video. And
Yeah.
was like, hell yes.
I was like,
Should have
man,
looked for something. No, like I struggled a bit because I have this weird anxiety whenever a boss battle begins. I'm just like, crap. Like I just kind of feel weird when it's like, oh, I'm just getting into the cutscene and now I have to
actually
now I have to fight.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, actually I have to make some work and make some effort. But no, I struggled a bit because I was fighting the frogs and stuff, just trying to kill them, get them out of the way because I felt like I needed to. And just kind of look, and because of snow, and also my battery was running out on the solid eye, so I couldn't really use the night vision all that much. I couldn't really snipe well because my stress was so high in the game, and my stamina was so low. I kept shaking, so I couldn't really focus the sniper rifle. So I kept having to try to I don't know, do my best to use the other rifle and just kind of get the laser sight on her best I can. But eventually, I think I died a couple times, but I eventually got her. I was able to. There's tends to be little corners that you can kind of hide that she can't get to you when she's kind of roaming around and just kind of jumping around and attacking and all that stuff. Because there's a point where she'll jump, if you're out in the open and she runs at you, she'll pounce on you, and she'll just kind of jump on you, and you have to try and get her off or shoot her or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Especially with all the frogs and the snowstorm and stuff. It's really easy to for Snake to catch cold and then just be screwed and then just get super sniped, and then a bunch of frogs will shoot you.
Yeah.
Especially if you get lost and stuff like that. And it's supposed to be the solid eye getting turned off makes it harder for people to notice you, but I didn't really notice a difference in this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because the solid eye is supposed to... I think the night vision's supposed to make some type of noise or something like that they can detect you or something like that. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I didn't really notice a difference in this, but maybe other people would have a different sort of opinion on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Likewise, too, once you non-lethal her, I think for me it was kind of in the same as the video. It was near where the Metal Gear Rex door is. So for this fight, essentially after I non-lethaled her, and it did the cutscene, which it's more just tits and ass, goo girl videos. It was just why is this girl covered in placenta, and why are we just looking at her ass?
Yeah. When I beat Crying Wolf, I was my sister was downstairs watching it, and I go, I'm gonna skip this. I'll watch it later.
Oh no! Did you watch it later?
Yeah, I watched it later, but I was not about to watch this with them sitting there.
Yeah, right. Which congratulations to your sister. One of Isaac's sisters got married last weekend.
Oh, nice.
Oh, she's gonna get married.
Big ups. Oh, really? I thought it was this past weekend.
No,
Or
that
is it
was
next weekend?
something else.
Related. Apologies.
No.
Excuse me. It was the Stag Night.
Yes, that's what that was.
Sorry about that. So, congratulations to your sister getting married soon.
Yes, I'll tell her you
But
said that.
You should have given her wedding gift early and shown her this placenta-covered hot lady. No,
she would have loved that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's pretty much. I mean, at this point, we're used to it. We've seen the yucky covered TNA gooey girls. Spoiler alert, second part of the boss fight is, hey, a pretty lady wants to hug you. Make sure she doesn't. And that's pretty much it. I found the little statuette for the Crying Wolf doll in the trees, directly behind Snake after the cutscene was over. So for me, it was a real easy, I took 3 steps backward, and there it is, and hooray. And then I threw on the V-ring on the shotgun and just, took her down in, 2 or 3 shots when she wasn't dodging. I don't know how the second half of the fight went for you guys, Craven.
Yeah, I just tried to just kind of... Because I just went guns a-blazing through this whole thing just because I was also, while trying to be nostalgic, also trying to speed through, so doing a little bit of both, but not spending my too much time on the enemies. But no, on her, I just kind of had my rifle. I had that one, I forgot what it was called, but the one that you can completely customize and all that. Get all the stuff.
M4, I think.
Yeah, the M4, and I just kind of kept shooting side to side, just trying to make sure I can hit her. And I was I just want this to be done.
So in a way, me, Isaac, and Craven all treated this part of the game the way that married couples that never have enough time treat scheduling sexual activity. It's kind of hey, let's do Wednesday at 2. Does that work for you?
It's a good way of putting it.
It was just cool, I like this, but we got to just kind of get through this
then
real
you
quick.
should rush through it.
It's I'm doing this for work.
Oh no, I don't know about that part, but yeah, that's but yeah, so that's a thing. Snake pretty much is just lusting over this fucking railgun again, just like he did with the previous gun.
He's picking it up, struggling to carry it.
Yeah, for sure, which I thought was kind of great. Isaac, did you have any sort of interesting, before we sort of conclude and wrap up with this cutscene, did you have any other interesting asides from the boss fight or from any of the rest of the parts that we've covered?
Well, this is a carryover from when I watched the walkthrough, and I tried it, and it actually worked surprisingly well. What the guy did and what I did was, what you do is when it's when you're fighting the beauty, you do the kind of tumble forward. I don't know what that's called, but You hit X and you
like
tumble
the
forward.
X roll.
Yeah, X roll. You do it like right in front of her, and it kind of stuns her a little bit. And you do that twice, and you get a free shot. Instead of her like shifting around when you shoot, you just run into her like twice, and then you get a free shot. So that worked surprisingly well. And
it amazes me, like the little things that are out there that you can do in these games up to this day that I never even heard of that you can do. And it's like, man, people who are spending their time trying to figure this stuff out, like trial and error, it's insane and ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like I had no idea. That's bananas.
Nothing but praise to those people who have the time to do that.
A lot of time. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought it was cool too.
Well, sick. Yeah, so essentially what ends up happening is we have our... there is a cool moment at the end of this, so I'm not just going to, like, hate bash this whole thing, but Drebin does his sort of obligatory, like, hey, I laundered that gun that you wanted. Also, like, pull up the cover, son. I'm going to tell you a story. And so essentially it's like... We start with, like, war-torn African ethnic cleansing village. Some, like, armed faction rolls into Crying Wolf's hometown. She's left as a refugee. Everyone's killed except for her and her baby brother. They're wandering, and they find the enemy unit kind of far away from their village, and they hide in like a shack. Her brother starts crying out of fear. She like puts her hand on her brother's mouth, doesn't realize from her fear and the shock that once the enemies pass, that she has killed her own brother. And then she carries this dead boy with her everywhere she goes. And she apparently was hallucinating a wolf that was walking with her. And eventually some refugee camp takes her in. There are tons of children crying everywhere. And so she's kind of haunted by the memory of killing her brother. And she imagines that the wolf that's with her kills all the children when actually it's her killing all the children.
Yeah, that's... pretty crazy.
A little crazy, a little fucked up. Yeah, and like on the eve of like some enemies raiding this refugee camp, which like I don't know what fucking world this is that this takes place in, but everyone's getting raided by enemies at all times. Yeah. Essentially, whenever the enemies show up to raid, there's not a single child left alive because she killed all them babies.
Yeah, that's an insane story.
Yeah, it's very intense.
Yeah.
And so, unlike the previous ones, which I'm pretty sure the previous Beauty and Beast folks to this point was essentially just like a weird, like, she's covered in ink and then feathers take her away and all these other things. For this one, it's kind of the same as the end of Sniper Wolf, where like a wolf shows up and kind of like mourns the loss.
Yeah,
except
and carries her away.
Yeah, instead of Sniper Wolf, the Sniper Wolf situation where the wolf kind of mourns, and that's all we see. This wolf just straight steals crying wolf, which I thought was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's, I mean, she carries her on its back, and that's it. That's this boss fight. Did you guys have any sort of wrap up thoughts on the first part of this act before we kind of roll into the wrap up?
A plus.
Yeah, I
all the
thought
A stands for Alaska.
Yeah, I thought it was really fun and exciting, especially just adding like little things here and there that we haven't seen before, instead of making it pretty much like a complete mirror image to what we were used to from a different point of view, to actually making it just kind of new and different. And I don't know, it was just insanely fun, and I always enjoy kind of going back to it, hence me having a save file specifically for this section. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I would agree. I think it's super fun. It's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool the way that they pulled the concept off. And it almost feels like, in a weird way, that the whole game was kind of built around this, in a sense.
For this moment.
And I'm actually,
yeah,
I mean, to some extent.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've done these little homages throughout the game, but it's kind of weird to me that if this was supposed to sort of be the intended end of the entire series, it's interesting to me that they didn't try and pull something like this with like MGS2 or some sort of direct MGS3 homage. I mean, I know that we did like the motorcycle stuff, and like MGS2 influence is all over this game, but it's interesting that they didn't like straight lift something like this sooner. But I'm glad that they didn't, because it made this moment kind of make make it that much more impactful. So yeah, that's dope. Just to kind of wrap up and kind of do some housekeeping stuff real quick, I did want to say, so like we'd kind of mentioned before, so Sam Wright cannot join us this episode because he is on his way to moving to Seattle because of his sick new job. Once he gets to Seattle and gets all sort of taken care of and all that jazz, we are going to have him on the next episode because this act means a lot to all of us, and Sam wants to be a part of Act 4, and we would love to have him be a part of Act 4. And likewise, Craven, if you have the time to finish the act, we are extending our invitation for you to kind of rejoin us as well. I know originally Nick Fredo was supposed to be on the next episode, but he is also moving to California. Because
Everybody's moving
to the West Coast.
Me, I'm just moving in with my sister, just a few, just up the street. But like, yeah, I'm moving as well at this point.
Yeah. Oh, I just moved too. I moved a mile, so everybody's moving.
Yeah, but no, I am grateful for the opportunity to host again. So I'm excited. I definitely finish up the game, specifically for the show, and finish up the long cutscenes. But I do look forward to the end of it. So.
That's awesome.
At least
and I'd
the
love
end
to
of
have you
this
and
act.
Sam on because I know both of you guys have like a very, very rich wrestling background.
Yeah.
I think me and Isaac's wrestling background is like to the extent of like the documentary Ultimate Christian Wrestling that a friend of ours did, which is phenomenal. You should check it out if you guys have not. It is a documentary about Christian wrestlers in rural Georgia hosting and creating their own wrestling federation.
Yeah.
It's super interesting. Even if you're not religious or if you are religious, it doesn't really say anything about the religious aspect. It just kind of shows you, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should check it out.
It's always an interesting thing, like doing shows because I've done wrestling shows in churches. So it's very interesting. But typically those crowds aren't really all that into the wrestling itself. They just kind of tend to just be there. But sometimes those shows can be kind of stressful because you feed off the crowd and the crowd doesn't really give you much. But for the most part, a decent crowd, can really make a show more. So, but yeah, definitely, gotta give that a look.
Yeah, man, it's super good. But yeah, so speaking of all that too, just to kind of segue into our plugs from like a less of a housekeeping section. Craven, where can people check you out? I know that you host a podcast. I'm fairly certain it's wrestling related. Is that true?
It's not wrestling related specifically. We do talk talk a little bit about wrestling. I'm very much of a flip-flopper when it comes to wrestling because I was kind of going through a brief bitter boycott of professional wrestling because it's just kind of, with opportunities just kind of coming, going past me and all that stuff. I kind of stepped away from wrestling for a while. So for about 8 months, I stepped away and the bug's been kind of biting back at me a little bit. So hence me making wrestling gear and all that. So I got a couple shows lined up that are coming in the next couple months and all that. But no, my podcast is the Breaking Knyte podcast. Knyte spelled Knyte. That's kind of how I chose to have the name spelt and all that. But no, the Breaking Knyte podcast. The idea is that we kind of break the night and stay up all night having conversations about really interesting stuff. And the show, I feel now has kind of found its way, but we're actually going, because I host it with my buddy Sean Iredale, who I used to wrestle with, who is a comic book artist for his company, Amberland Studios. And you can check out his stuff, amberlandstudios.com. He's building that up with his friend Tyler Hansen and all that.
Is it Ambulance or Amberlance?
Amberlance. It was on one of the podcasts, he explains the origin of the name. It's pretty much exactly what you think. It's just kind of like amazing. A play on the words of the song and all that stuff. But awesome. But Amberlance Studios spelled exactly how it sounds. And he's a great artist. We have a mutual interest in comic book stuff. So the podcast is pretty much mostly podcast. Oh no, sorry, mostly. Like creative stuff for the most part. We have creative topics. We try to stay in the creative realm since, he does artist stuff and I like to make stuff. I sew, I make props and all that stuff. And that's a little business to try to get going because I really love making stuff for people and taking commissions for that. And
that's awesome.
And yeah,
like an Etsy shop or anything like that.
I don't have an
Etsy
shop that I use. I usually kind of stick to kind of like Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, and like people can hit me up on there. I do have a website, but the website's pretty much garbage, so I don't worry about it right now. I'm not that great with building a website or anything, no matter how simple they try to make it.
You wouldn't happen to have like a contact email or something that somebody could reach you out?
I do. It is breakknightprops@gmail.com is what it is.
That's awesome.
And if you want to contact me there, but it's also at Craven Knyte on Instagram, but also at Breakknightprops on Instagram as well. Also have some Facebook pages to go along with those. But yeah, that's the thing. That's the podcast is creative stuff, but also we talk, other forms of media like comic books, movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, all the stuff that interests us in the nerd realm, but always try to bring it all back to the creative realm, because I feel like there's not that many creative podcasts or creativity based podcasts, because I'm a creative guy. I'm a very jack of all trades kind of dude. I like dip my hand in almost everything instead of just sticking to one thing. So so I kind of booking myself into a corner where it's like I work full time, then I go to the gym, and then I have to record a podcast, and I got to edit a podcast, I got to make a prop, I got to make wrestling gear, I got to do this and that. I like to stay busy. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
though.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Along those lines too, speaking of creative things, shameless self plugs. We just started on our Slack for our patrons. Anybody who wants to kick a couple bucks to us via Patreon, which all of that is the only thing supporting the show. So we definitely appreciate all of that. We just started a creative channel on our Slack because quite a few people have talked about how sort of talking on the podcast or listening to the podcast has like kind of kickstarted a feeling in them to be a little bit more creative.
Nice.
So we're going to be having sort of creative discussions. Likewise, if you do dig that style of podcast, we do have one sort of on the Forever and Astronaut. I mean, I don't want to say network. I hesitate to say network because we're only like 2 or 3 shows. But Forever and Astronaut's show Nocturnal Transmissions, which is a digital filmmaking podcast. We talk about screenwriting. We talk about sort of community involvement, coming up with creative projects, stuff like that. So if that's your cup of tea, check that out as well. Real quick note. I just wanted to say, so Forever and Astronaut just got the Dev Diary show is now on Amazon Prime Instant Video. So it's not video on demand. It's not sort of the, what is the word I'm looking for? I think it's like video direct that Amazon does for filmmakers. This is like official Amazon Prime. If you are an Amazon Prime person, you get the show for free now, and you can stream it just like you would stream any other show that you enjoy. And I wanted to kind of plug it here just to let you guys know, A, it's about creative shit, which is really cool, but B, we just got on the platform. We're just on Amazon Prime now officially. So if you look up Dev Diary, it's the documentary TV show that we produce. Again, totally out of pocket just because we love making shit for folks to check out. If you guys wouldn't mind giving us like a written review or a rating, getting written reviews and ratings within the first 30 days is extremely helpful to getting us like front page positioning or anything like that on Prime. So if you guys could take 2 seconds to just leave a quick review, and if you have Prime, definitely just watch it, watch the show, at least watch the first episode, and then leave a review. But I just wanted to plug that. Likewise, we're running a little bit of like a contest. Thanks to Isaac and myself for spending way too much money on stuff. I have 3 digital codes for the new Gorillaz album, Humans. Regardless of how you feel about the record, because I'm not super hot on the record, it's still solid. There's some good stuff on it, but we have 3 codes. 2 of them are digital / physical potential hybrid codes. One of them is digital only. If you want to be entered for a chance to win access to any of those codes, hit us up via Twitter. Share actually you can share hashtag Metal Gear Mondays or hashtag Dev Diary Podcast, and tag either Forever an Astronaut or myself, which is at AC Summerfield, with like a link to the show, and we'll automatically enter everybody in for a chance to win a digital copy or a physical copy of Humans, the new Gorillaz record. But yeah, that's my fucking wall of plugs. If you guys have any sort of written responses for Act 4 or any of the Metal Gear Solid 4 acts besides 5, you can hit us up at contact@foreveranastronaut.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter, either hashtag Metal Gear Mondays or at AC Summerfield, and you can like us on Facebook. We have 190 likes on Facebook. If we get 10 more, Zachary James will have to destroy a cartridge of Snake's Revenge on video for everyone. So for the love of Christ, just invite 10 people already. I want to see this thing on fire. But yeah, that's it. Isaac, do you have anything you want to plug? Anything cool people should check out? Anything like that?
Not right now. Maybe in the future.
Very nice. You heard it here, folks, guys. Isaac's working on a super secret project.
Heard it here
Yeah.
first.
I'll let you guys
Sweet.
know. Wink.
Well, cool.
Wink.
No, this has been a fucking killer episode, Craven. Really nice to have you on the podcast. I do have a question, and I think I brought this up the very first time that you ever wrote into us. You didn't get the name Craven from like Craven the Hunter from Spider-Man, did you?
No, actually, it came up weird, almost as if I made up the name Craven myself. But it came up for me just kind of coming up with different names. I wanted something that sounded dark, so I was like, first thing came to mind was like crazy, crazen, yeah, crazen,
Crazy Raven.
Crazy.
But then I was like, Craven sounds like a cool name. Like it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like a name I've heard very much, and I'm explaining why. There's a reason why people don't use that name, but yeah, I came up with Craven. I was like, Craven, I like the first last name basis, Craven Knight. Like, I'm a big fan of Batman, so like the Dark Knight thing. But if I use Knight, I want to spell it different. But obviously, people are going to spell it wrong all the time because people have spelled it every which way but the correct way.
Yeah.
So once I finally got on a poster and they spell my name correctly, I'm happy. But no, I came up with Craven Knight that way. Just trying to think it just sounded cool, kind of rolls off the tongue pretty easily. But it didn't. I came up with it when I was like 18 and fairly ignorant to the English language. I didn't realize back then that Craven means coward.
Oh no.
Damn it.
But for 12 years in the wrestling business, or at least under that anyway, I kind of just stuck with it, and it can be used as fodder for promos against me and all that stuff, which is and all that stuff. So I dig the name.
Who's taking out political ads against him? I'm concerned. Are you okay? Are you safe? Do you need a place to stay?
I think I need a place to stay. If you got a shed that I can probably shack up with Isaac in the shed that he's being tortured in.
Oh yeah, that's true. In the bunker.
Yeah. But no, I dig the name. I like the way it rolls off the tongue. My real name is Luis, but I just kind of, it's a very boring Spanish name. I'm the least Spanish person that I know. So
I like Luis.
It's all right. But
also, isn't Luis also like the main character of Ballad of Gay Tony, the Grand Theft Auto 4 expansion? I think
so. Yeah, probably.
Hell yeah,
yeah.
Dude. That guy was awesome.
I always try to look for reasons like, oh, Luis, this is a cool name, but no, just I kind of stick with Craven because I think it's cool, and I have a cool logo a buddy of mine came up with, helped me come up with the CK, where like the C, the middle of it is kind of like the front of the C and the back of the K, and it looks really cool. So I kind of like branded myself with that, and I love that logo. So
hold on. You might think I'm crazy. What if you went by Luis CK?
Trust me, that has crossed my mind. I always try to put the connection together. If it wasn't for that O, it'd be pretty much the exact same thing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
That would be phenomenal.
yeah.
That's awesome. You should try and sell out comedy shows. Be like, Louis C.K. is coming to Minneapolis.
Yeah, the ignorant fans would be like, "Oh my God, we're gonna see Louis C.K." And then he's like, "Who the hell's this bald
just show
built
up.
Spanish dude?"
Oh, he must be the opener. Let's stick around.
Yeah.
Show up. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, cool. So I'm trying to think real quick. Oh, and real quick as well. Sorry for people that are patrons. Thank you. Number one. Number two. I really quick wanted to let everybody know that at some point in the next, I want to say in the next week, but more realistically, probably the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to be building out like a patron-specific login part of the website for Forever an Astronaut, and we will be uploading some really cool shit, like behind-the-scenes photos, also like unreleased scans of like working scripts from shoots, and like pre-production booklets, but also putting like archival stuff, like old films that nobody can see, and like the feature film edit for Dev Diary Season 1 is going to be there, which is only festival access right now, and we're also going to be putting up sizzles for like super top secret shows that we're trying to pitch to production companies and agencies right now, so you will be the only ones to see them. So that shit's cool, and I just wanted to make a mention of it. Craven, Do you wanna say the thing that we get people to say sometimes to finish the show?
Well, it's just a box.
Oh, but just a box.